Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talks at Google with Jaahnavi Sriperambuduru. She is a world renowned mountaineer. She is on a mission to climb the tallest peaks on each of the seven continents around this world. My name is Ashish Gupta. I am a director of engineering at Google. I lead the Google Maps team here in the Bangalore office. I am pleased to invite Jahanvi as our speaker today. She is 19 years old. She studies in the 12th grade. She was just 13 years old when she climbed Mount Elbrus, which is Europe's highest peak. She was the youngest girl in the world to do this. She is also the youngest Indian to reach the summits of Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Kosciuszko, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Mount Denali. So with these, she has already climbed four out of the seven summits across the continents, and three still remain. Please join me in welcoming Jahanvi to hear directly from her more about her journey and her plans forward. Hi, Jahanvi. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi
Welcome.
Ashish, good
Well,
afternoon. I am good,
well,
thank you.
welcome to Talks at Google. Um, it's a pleasure to have you here, Jahanvi. As I was telling earlier, you are 19 years old and still in school. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely right.
So, how are you dealing with this current situation with the widespread pandemic? I believe you are also stuck studying and working from home. How is this affecting your day-to-day life? How is this affecting your mountaineering expeditions?
Well, both of them have really taken up a long step. So it's quite difficult to stay back at home in between the four walls and not going out because I'm more like an outdoor person because, traveling so much and climbing mountains for so long. It's quite difficult to, stay back at home because of the pandemic. But it's been quite interesting because this lockdown pandemic has made me realize that you can do something sitting at home also. You can learn so many things sitting at home. So yeah, I learned quite a few, but then studying and the mountaineering had really having a hard time on me right now. So yeah.
So, can you share what new skills have you picked up in the recent months while you're stuck at home?
Well, I actually I started cooking. So, my mom was quite busy with her schoolwork, and then I had to take care of the kitchen and then the utensils and everything. And then I also, being a girl, I wanted to try like the fancy stuff, like new hairstyles, and then. I picked up the drawing again. I used to do back few months back, but then because of the traveling and the schooling, I didn't have much time. But then I again got back, and then my mom taught me a bit of stitching because that is a
Wow.
very essential activity to learn because you never know when you would be requiring that skill in your life. So I learned the basics of it. And yeah, a bit of I started my fitness recently because the lockdown has got me quite lazy enough. So now I'm like, okay, now I am going to go back on my feet.
Wow, that's quite a lot, along with all the studies that you have to do for your 12th board. I'm sure this is keeping you quite busy. So speaking of
Yes.
mountaineering, can you tell more about how did you get into it and why did you choose this Mission 7 Summit? Can you tell us a little bit about your story behind this?
Yes. So, unlike like anybody else's story, mine is a very unique story that I proudly feel like telling because I am the only girl in the whole world where I was being introduced to this sport when I was just 10 months old, a 10-month little
Wow.
toddler. And so that is when my journey started. So it was my father who is the backbone of whatever I am today. Whatever you are seeing on the screen is all because of my father. and he actually wanted to, give a try whether I was able to uh, cope up with the climatic conditions and then cope up with the terrain and all the habitat that was happening around. So that is when my father actually got me into this. And then later, few years passed by, I was having a regular uh, child life. And then when I was 8, 9 years, my father, he used to take me to various treks. So there I noticed, like nobody was there of my age. Like, everybody were elder to me, and I was this little tiny tot in between the entire group. And then, getting pampered and talking to everybody. But, there'll be this thing in you when you're this little kid that, you expect someone of your age so that you can play around, jump around, and, have that fun when you're going out. So unfortunately, I didn't find that. So I asked my father, like, why isn't anybody there of my age? So he was like, let's just complete this trek. Once we go back, and then I will, explain you everything about it. And then my father was telling me, like, this sport, this adventure sports, this trekking, it's a very unique sport. And this I'm talking this about, like 2007 or 2006, somewhere around that time. Not much of them were aware of this trekking or, someone climbing mountains. Yeah, people used to climb mountains, but no one heard a little girl, going on treks and expeditions back then. So it was quite difficult to, face that listening from all the people. So my father told, like, this sport, if you want to get into it, the first thing that you need to understand and accept whether you will be coming back home safely or no. So that was the first lesson that my father has ever given me about before me getting into this, because he knew that, if he puts everything in front of me, and he knew that I was a person who would understand and grasp things very easily. So that is how I was molded from the very childhood of mine. And that is when the Seven Summits came up, because I started getting excited about everything. I started looking up on the internet, what is mountaineering, what do people do in it. And then I came across few very experiential climbers. So that is when I came across Seven Summits. So Seven Summits is basically to climb the highest peaks of all the seven continents, like how we have Mount Everest in Asia, Mount Kilimanjaro. So that is how my Mission 7 Summit took its place.
Very nice. So, Janvi, can you tell a little bit more about your father's role in coaching you, mentoring you? To give some context to the audience, Janvi's father recently lost a battle with cancer. As Janvi told, he was a mountaineer himself and Janvi's coach and mentor during her early childhood days. So maybe you can tell a little bit more about the journey. Maybe you can share some experience of your recent climbs or the climbs that you did with him. And if you feel comfortable, like share your journey of your and his fight with his cancer.
Yes, definitely. So, this story, like my entire career of whatever I had the last 17 years, it's been a very, my journey has been emotional. It has been very emotional, in fact. And because my father had played the major role of whatever I've been doing, whatever I am doing now. Because my father was a person where he wanted to prove, he wanted to build a warrior for the society where people from anywhere wouldn't point out saying that Indian girls are weaklings. So that was the main motto why he built me up in this way, why I'm being grown up in this way to do anything in life, is because, he's been traveling a lot, and he kept hearing like people saying that Indian girls cannot do this, Indian girls cannot do that, they're only fit to do the domestic work, and they just cannot do anything else apart from taking care of the house. So that really bothered him. So it was a trigger point for him, to prove everybody that, Indian girls are the most powerful women than anybody, because the way they live their life, the mental strength that we have is marvelous. You just cannot compare that to anybody, anything. So he wanted to get that taboo out of people's mind that, Indian girls cannot do this, or specifically an activity or a job. So my father has by profession, he's a doctor. So he was a mental health doctor. So he understood from the day I was born, from the day I spent time with him. So he knows every bit of my moment, everything about me. So he knew that I was capable of pursuing this as my career, as my passion. So that is when he introduced me, and honestly speaking, my father has sacrificed his entire life for being with me for my mission, so that he could see his daughter fulfill his dream. And in 2012, he resigned his professional job, and 100% he put his entire life behind me, because I was just 11 and a half when I took up the decision of climbing the seven peaks. So it was a very tough call on my family, who is going to take care of the house. So my mom is a teacher, she works. And my father, being a doctor, he resigned his profession, and full time he was with me. And it was very difficult, because the expenses, the traveling, the food, training, everything was quite difficult. But somehow, we found our way, and we came across all those years in spite of all the struggle. And my father was detected in 2015, March 8th. So that was the day that it was confirmed that he was having last stage of lung cancer. But then before that, in 2014, in October, both of us have summited Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest peak of Africa. So that was the first summit of my seven peaks, and I created the record of being the youngest Asian, and we also had a father-daughter duo record of summiting Mount Kilimanjaro together. So that was the beginning of my seven summit mission in 2014, and 2015 was a very emotional year for my family, because that was the very year my father was detected with his ailment. And within the span of 2 months, my father sent me all by myself to climb Europe's highest peak, Mount Elbrus. So he was like, I got my cancer. That's it. That's fine. I will fight my own battle. But then your dream is right ahead of you. So there should be nothing that should stop you from achieving your dream. So he made all the preparation, he trained me, we did a lot of training, and then I went all by myself for the very first time in my life. Took a flight, flew to Europe, and climbed the peak, and then came back with the record of being the youngest in the world to climb the highest peak of Europe, Mount Elbrus. So it was very, very difficult, to be honest, because my father has been there all the time. And me, for the first time, when I went out of the country with another group of people, it was very difficult for me to manage things all by myself, getting up, eating by myself, getting ready, because 13 years and you're traveling all by yourself without your main person, your main buddy you can say I would always say my father was my buddy all the time in the mountains, because the kind of fun that we had was like, I just cannot express those moments because it's very special for me. And that was 2015 second summit. My father wasn't there with me, and in the same year we flew to Australia to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. That's the highest peak of Australia. And along with that, I did Mount the Aussie 10 challenge. So the Aussie 10 challenge is nothing but to climb the highest peaks of the snowy mountain range. So that is a range where the highest peak comes. So I had to climb that in 4 days. And I can proudly say that my father is the first cancer patient from India to climb Mount Kosciuszko along with me. And that was like, it gave me a lot more motivation for me for the rest of my climbs, because in spite of he struggling so much with his health condition, he made sure to be as that strength and that motivator for me for my clients, because he knows that without him I cannot do anything. Without his support, I would have not been here. So he made that point that he would be with me. And so it gave me a realization that when I am 100% fit, healthy, without any ailment or any health conditions, why can't I be that, uh, that motivator and that strength for others also, to prove that nothing is impossible to do. So it gave me that boost, and I took ahead and climbed the peak. And then in 2016, I climbed Mount Denali. My father also accompanied me that time, and he came only till the base camp because of the financial problem, he couldn't climb along with me. So that also was like very tough. So that is a whole lot different experience for me, Mount Denali. So my father's dream was to see me on the top of the highest peak of the world, Mount Everest. But in 2019, I've attempted Mount Everest, and unfortunately, I wasn't successful. But then I wouldn't say it is unfortunate, but I would say it's fortunate that I didn't climb in the year 2019, because there was a number of people who lost their lives on that season. So I would say that I was blessed because I took the right decision at the right time, and I am safe sitting back at home and having fun. So after I attempted my Everest first time, the same year 2019, on July 12th, my father took his last breath. So it was difficult, and yeah, it's. But then I never stopped there because I wanted to continue it, even though my father's not there, because it is his dream and I want to fulfill that.
Thank you, Janvi, for sharing this. It's a very humbling and very inspiring story. The challenges that you have faced, both in personal life as well as in mountaineering, are something um, that are very hard to imagine sitting here. Uh, you've climbed all these peaks. Maybe you could share a story, an anecdote, any risky experience that you had along any of these climbs.
Well, every peak, like mountaineering, is a risky sport. So every step that you take on a mountain is a risky experience. I would definitely mention that, because you should always expect the unexpected. You do not know what will happen when. So every moment is a risky one. But then I would like to quote two experiences from the four peaks that I climbed successfully. So I would like to talk about Mount Kilimanjaro, where that was the very first peak that I climbed, and then it is a very uh, unique peak for me, because this is a volcanic mountain. Mount Kilimanjaro was a volcanic mountain, and to reach the summit, to reach the highest point, that was called the Uru Peak, you had to cross four different terrains to reach the summit. So there is just one peak, and you have to cross four different climatic conditions. So the first one goes, which is the rainforest, where in these horror films you see this fog coming out of the graveyard, and then it just vanishes, and you cannot see anything else. It was like that. So I experienced exactly that thing. My father was walking right ahead of me, and then all of a sudden, within a fraction of minute, he just vanished, and he started calling me, "Where are you?" on the walkie-talkie. And I'm like, "I'm right behind you." Then he looked behind and he's like, "No, I can't see you." And then when I came forward, he was like, "Just two steps ahead." So it was like this mushy kind of terrain, always wet. And this huge trees where you cannot even see the sunlight. There are no rays of sun. And then the next camp was, it was almost like this rocky terrain kind of thing. It was like dry. And but then even though if it is dry, it was cold, because as you gain higher on the altitude, the temperature definitely drops down. So it was getting cold. And then the third terrain was, it was arid, and it was like a semi desert kind of thing, where it was like completely dry, and there's dry plants which were there. And I've seen many kinds of birds, and all the time I've been listening in the movies about this ravens, the crows, the wild crows with those big eyeballs. So I was lucky enough to spot them on the mountain. It was called the white-necked raven. So whenever we used to have our meals, they used to just come and fly around us, so that they can get the leftover bones or something which we had, and they would just come and take it and go. So it was lucky. I was lucky that I could capture them. And the last one is, it is called the Arctic zone. It is named like that because it is completely snowy. And in spite of Mount Kilimanjaro being a volcano, there are glaciers on top near the crater. It was very surprising for me to see, like, it is a dormant volcano, but then there were huge icebergs on the mountain at the top near the crater, and that was so mesmerizing to see. I didn't have time, but then I wish I could go to the crater, which was 3 kilometers wide long. So I also collected a few samples of the lava. It is historical, because being a volcano, there were dry pieces of lava, so I collected them. And a very special moment on Kilimanjaro was where I was just walking ahead, and my guide just said me, like, just turn around. Like, I was already exhausted, and then my guide is like, just turn around and just look behind you. And the moment I turned around, I could see the day and the night with two of my eyes. Like, it was such a brilliant view, like experiencing both the days, like the night and the day. It was completely dark, but to one side, and then the other side where the sun was coming up, it was this golden orange line where I could see the horizon of the earth, the curvature of the earth. And then every time I talk about it, I could literally see that moment where I experienced that. And then it was like I was walking on clouds. Like, I just, it's very difficult to express that feeling in words, because you're walking at an altitude where the airplanes fly. So the Mount Kilimanjaro is almost like 17,000 feet, because it's 5,895 meters. And it was, I just don't have words, because the moment me and my father reached a point which was called the Stella Point, which was, almost quarter distance from the summit. Me and my father had tears in our eyes, because I was almost struggling, and I made it. The main point was that I made it till that point, and we had this happy tears, and my guides also started crying looking at us. because I was just 12 years old, and nobody in 2000 till 2014, nobody has climbed at that age. So it was a very proud moment for me. So that was Kilimanjaro for the experience. And there's this other peak, Mount Denali. The only moment which I remember on this mountain is called the ridge climb. That is from 40,000 feet camp to 17,000 feet camp, where you cannot stand with both your feet parallel to each other. So, you can just imagine standing by yourself. How is it possible on a ridge where you have only this much place for your foot to be placed, and you have to stand 1 foot ahead, 1 foot behind. So you can just imagine at 17,000 feet when you are climbing up with all your gear, with all your equipment, and with heavy backpack, and the terrain is inclined. It's not flat. Remember, it's not flat, it's inclined, and you cannot put both your feet together and stand. So you go up, that is fine. You are roped up with your guide, everything is fine. But then how are you going to come down? It's the same route. So you have to get down the same inclined path. So that is a very, very, very challenging part of the climb. And literally, to be honest, when I was getting down after coming back from summit, I was literally chanting the mantra which my father taught me. Whenever you need some power, we believe that because we in India, we always believe that there's some external power when you chant something. So I started chanting. I was calling out to my father, though he was not there. And then, I was taking one step at a time. I was chanting, and then I was taking one step at a time. And then it went on like that. And it is very exhausting. So, like, literally exhausting. But then the view from there, I cannot express that. I mean, it's like completely, it feels like you're on top of the world and you are the king and the queen of the world and you rule the world. It's like that. So these are the few snippets from my experience. But then if I just keep going on, I don't think we'll have much time for other questions.
Thank you, Janvi. Both the experiences that you shared sound like a lot of fun, but all the hard work that is required to get to that point is something that needs a lot of preparation, and I can tell. So all these peaks, like they are 5,000 to 6,000 meter high. Do you get cell phone signals up top? I'm just joking. Actually, on a more serious note, how was the technology? How is technology changing the sport? Like, what kind of tech gear do you carry with you, and what role does tech play in the sport these days?
So, as in mountains, you definitely won't get a phone signal, but then there are a few peaks where at a certain point of level you do get signals, but not the internet, but normal calling. But then, normally for climbing or any expeditions, when you go onto the mountain, we have satellite phones. So sometimes the company will give you the satellite phone with whichever company you're going if they have the facility. Or else, for me as a personal climber, me as an individual climber, I have a sponsor from New Zealand. So he is a person who owns a company. So who issues, who takes care of the satellite phones and the messengers. So he was very kind enough when I was climbing Australia's highest peak. My father, met him, and after listening to my story, he by himself came forward and said that he will be ready to sponsor me for my climb, for the communication part, because he never met anybody at this age who climbed so many peaks and who was doing the 7 summits. So he was feeling proud, and he said that he will give me the communication part for my climbs. So I have this device called a satellite messenger, where there is only a texting part which can be done, and I can post minimum letters of wordings on social media. So it's not like a regular cell phone where you have all the all the alphabets on the keypad. It's just like, you have four buttons, and the other is SOS, and the other is the on and off button. So you need to sit down, move the arrow to, the every alphabet, and then you have to select. That's quite difficult. So yeah, I have the satellite messenger, and that is how I sometimes stay in touch with my parents back at home. And it also has a tracker where, the person, so it is enabled when I start my expedition, and you can see the track points at which pace I am going, at what time I've reached. So that is my personal way of communicating to anybody uh, who are there for me, for my family members. But then normally, the satellite phones have been coming up and taking place. But then, satellite phone connection also is very costly. And, it takes a lot of money to take a 1 minute call. So I don't have a satellite phone, but then I think soon, sometime, I will take it. So with the permission and all the license, which is very important to have a satellite phone. So that is how the communication takes part. But for me, as an individual, I have this device, the satellite messenger.
I see. Thanks, Janvi. So, what's the next peak that you're targeting? Once, I believe, once COVID is over, I'm sure you are keen to go back to climb the remaining three peaks. So, what's the next one?
So I'm not yet fixed of which next I will be doing, because I have already attempted two peaks out of those three peaks which are unfinished. That is Mount Everest and Mount Aconcagua, which is the highest peak of South America. So I might go to Mount Aconcagua, or I might even go to Mount Everest, depending upon how is my preparation and how are my finances. So it's not fixed yet. So now it's like I'm not in a position to think about it, because because of this pandemic, it's got a very big halt for my Mission 7 summit, because I had a target of finishing it by a certain age, but then now it is become even more difficult to complete it to the expected age that I put a deadline to. But then it is okay. So it doesn't matter, because the mountains are not going anywhere. And I have ample of time to prepare myself and get stronger and finish it up whenever time permits.
That makes sense. So, how popular is this sport in India? And what do you think needs to happen to make it more popular?
Well, honestly speaking, about this sport, mountaineering and trekking, it is picking up now from the past few years, because the many people want something kind of a stress buster, and then having fun. They want to be gadget free without any disturbance with their mobiles or work, and they just want to have time for themselves and enjoy themselves. So yeah, it has been picking up pace, but then it is not that popular, because not many of them know what actually takes behind to climb a mountain. Everybody thinks that it is very easy. It's like you have to climb only this peak. But then it is not that. Mountaineering is such a sport where it tests you both mentally and physically. Mountaineering is all about both of these very important aspects. So many of them, take this very lightly, and sometimes it so happens that they also lose their lives, because they don't have the ample knowledge that is required, or the proper training, or the proper diet, and the knowledge about the technical aspect. There's a lot which goes into mountaineering. So there, to bring an awareness about this, to get that popularity in this sport, first thing, people need to understand what goes with mountaineering. And you know what you have to actually put in. And until and unless the person who wants to start climbing has that will from within him or herself, you cannot do anything in this field. Because this is such a field where until and unless the mountain or the nature accepts you, you will not be able to climb. Even though you're a millionaire, billionaire, you're the fittest person on this earth, anything, it doesn't matter. Until and unless you have that humbleness, that discipline, and the down to nature, you cannot get into this sport. So it is very important to understand these kind of aspects. And sometimes people are lucky, they're special because they are born with that skill. And it is not that difficult to grasp the knowledge or get yourself acclimatized to the terrain, the climate, and everything, the high altitude. So it will take time. So to begin with the awareness of it, I would say that you need to have a lot of sessions or workshops about everything that takes place in trekking. And the basic part is you need to go with the minimums of the small climbs. Like there's a 5 days trek that you have. And then main important thing is, if you want to take this up as a serious sport, people need to do the courses which are being provided by various mountaineering institutes that we have in India. And we need to be fit all the time. Here it's like complete body should be ready to face any kind of challenge. And more than physically, you need to be that person who is mentally strong. Because once at a certain point of time during your climb, your physical fitness will not work because you're already drained out. Because at certain point of altitude above 6,000 meters, if you climb, you are drained, you are exhausted. And at that altitude, gaining back your energy is, there is no question. Like, you cannot gain your energy back. All you have to do is either you come back or use your mental strength and push yourself ahead. So it is that positivity that is the most required thing that needs to be put in. And yeah, so I've been working to spread this awareness about mountaineering, trekking. What is the benefit? I would say, like, if once a person gets into it is the biggest addiction. It's not a bad addiction, but it is a very good addiction in your life that you will never regret that why did I get into this. You'll be like, how did I get into this? And what is that change? You will never look back to that person you were. You will look back to the person you are right now. So that is the main thing I think I've been learning throughout my life. It not only changes that person, it transforms that person. The way you think, the way uh, you take things, the way you work, the way you live your life, it completely changes. So, yeah, awareness is the most important thing that I think should be brought up in India, especially because everybody would love it. And we are no less with mountains in India to the northern part, because most of the Himalayan ranges are with us. So, yeah.
Thanks, Janvi. That was a great answer. And I think you are leading by example in bringing that awareness to India and really to the rest of the world as well. Um so, if Janvi had shared some photos with us from some of our peaks, it'll be great if Janvi, you could just tell the story behind those photos. We will just go through those one by one, and maybe you can tell
Definitely.
where that photo is from, how it was clicked, and what was happening in the background. It'll be great if you could share it with the rest of us.
Yes. Yeah. So this is from the peak, Mount Denali, which is the highest peak of North America. So the one which was I was talking about, the ridge climb. If you can see the path which is made uh, on the ridge of the climb, you can see that little path which is coming. So that is the path that we walk on. And if you can see my face, you cannot relate that it is me. Because of the cold, my face has swollen up, and because of the sunburn, I became dark. So that is the view I was talking about, like being on top of the world, and being, having that feeling that you are the king and the queen of the world. So that was a photo from the ridge climb that I was talking about, from the 14,000 feet camp to 17,000 feet camp. And I mean, that is my all-time favorite photo. Like whenever people ask me to send any photo, that is the first photo which goes into the mail. And because, it gives that feeling, that the actual mountaineer, how the face is and what is the background that you uh, experience.
That makes sense. That was a phenomenal photo. We could see the clouds below you,
Yes,
and I couldn't tell if there was a small ledge. Maybe that's what you were talking about, which is the ridge you were walking in.
yes,
It didn't look like there is any support on
absolutely
either
right.
side. It looked like you had to walk almost. It was like walking on a tightrope. Um,
Yes.
so I can't imagine how hard and risky that would have been. Thanks for sharing that, Janvi. Uh, I would like to just call out that we would also be taking questions from the audience. So please share your questions, and we will show them here on the screen, and Janvi would be happy to answer those. Before we start taking audience questions, I'll ask one more question, and then we will jump to take questions from the audience. Um, you were saying that like there's a lot of preparation that goes, and then there is equipment that you need, satellite phones and other things. So is this an expensive sport, and like how do people typically raise funds for it? How do you pay for it?
Well, this is a very, very expensive sport compared to any other sport that I have seen. And, different climbers have their own way of paying their expenses. And me hailing from a middle class family, it is a very difficult uh, part of my mission. I would always say, that more than climbing the mountain, raising funds for the peak is more challenging, is what I say to people. Because, the kind of amount that is involved in it is a middle class family wouldn't, even think about, even putting a step into it. So, like normally, because this isn't that much of a sport, not yet being called as a sport in India. People don't much know about, why does it take so much money to climb a peak. Because if you just, for an example, I would quote, if you plan for a vacation with your family, if you go on a 10 days climb, you go with all your clothing, you have a tour operator, you have a guide, and then you have a hotel, and you have the meals which are being provided by the hotel, and then you give up certain amount, for your food to the company with whom you're going. So what is that expenses? Like there is some inclusions and exclusions, right? So exactly it happens with us mountaineers also. So there is a company that we have to pay. And we normally, when you go on a vacation, you have food, you get water bottles on your way, you want anything that you get on your way. But on the mountain, what do you get? You don't get anything. So everything, whatever is required, everything is carried from your tent to the restroom, whatever you need, everything is being carried from the land to the mountain. So, and sometimes it is, there is no vehicles, there's no transportation. It is all either by choppers, the helicopters, or by people who carry them. So, if you take a 1 liter water bottle, how much does it cost? 50 rupees, 55 rupees or something. There it goes up to 500 rupees. It goes up to 150 rupees. So that is why it is expensive, and the equipment that you use, it is not the normal equipment. If you want to have your fingers, hands, limbs, everything safe without it getting amputated, you need to have the proper equipment. So you have to spend that much amount of money to buy the proper and the quality equipment. So the equipment goes up to like 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, probably. It depends upon how much, how many pairs you need, and then the tour operator, and the guides who are there, who are risking their lives so that they come and guide you, be make sure that you are safe, you submit, you come back, you need to pay them. So it involves upon all of this. So you can just compare it with your 10 days of vacation to 2 months of mountain climbing. So it is double the amount that you spend on your vacation and when you go on an expedition. So it is like that. And for me it was very, very challenging because I don't have a major sponsorer, like a full-time sponsorer for my mission. It is maybe because I've approached many people to support me, but then it is quite difficult to make them understand. As I said, not many people know why it takes so much of money. So it is very difficult to go to each and every person and explain the same thing, that this is what happened, this is, and few people will understand, few people don't. So what can you do to those people who cannot understand that why does it take so much of amount? So there are few people, who come out of their way with their kind heart, and they give out of their own savings. So this is, so many of the climbs which I have climbed till now, uh, all of them have been from my own friend circle. And sometimes there have been few articles which came out in the newspaper that she's using money for something else, blah blah blah. But then I made it sure, like, whatever money I am getting for my expeditions, I make sure that it is going in the right place, because I know what is that effort, the hard work is behind that money you get, because people are giving out of their hard work. So I need to make sure that the money goes into the right place. And my father has made it clear proof and transparent with by he actually, few people questioned us like, where do you use this money? So my father made it very clear, whatever amount we get, let it be like 2000, 2500, or 1000 rupees also, we made sure that it goes to the right place. So my father has opened a bank account only for my clients, only related to my mission. Let it be the equipment I purchase, or let it be the the amount that I transfer to the company, or my training, my diet, everything. So people have been much more confident about spending giving money, sponsoring for my climbs. So it has been a very good sign after people getting to know that the money is going to right place. And they have, like, there are so many people that I haven't even met them, that I don't even know them, but they came forward and they supported me. They have crowdfunding, uh, I have done for many of my expeditions. And there's always this one person, like an angel, who comes down. And the very moment, the day I have to catch my flight, that very moment some or the other person just comes out of nowhere, and the remaining amount, whichever is left, is completed, like it's full. I have my amount, and I hop onto the plane and I go without any tension. So my father, sometimes he has this plan B, plan C. So it is very annoying for my mother to take that step, because he keeps, without telling my mom, he gave away so many things. We sold our house, our car, the gold, everything is like just done. We are done. So it has come to that stage. So yeah, it is like a emotional story. It's quite crazy, I would say. Like, we have done a lot of crazy stuff throughout the journey. Like, so yeah, that is how the climbing expenses I have been spending for my expeditions. So though it is costly, I made it because I want to, and I done it.
That's Thanks for sharing this, Janvi. That's really great. I hope that this mountaineering and mountain climbing catches on more as a more popular sport. And just like we see for IPL and cricket and some of the other sports, we see more sponsorship coming and helping propagate the sport more broadly across India and across the world. With that, let's switch over to audience questions.
Yes.
So I'll just read the question. This is from
Yes.
Santosh Prakash. Denali is a tough peak. How do you choose which peak to climb? What goes into this decision making?
Right. I think that is a very apt question because, like, as people think that, whenever we want, we can climb a peak. But then there is a specific season that every mountain has. So the decision making is on every individual upon their physical fitness and their finances, how well they are. And that is how we make the decision of selecting which peak to climb according to the season. So if I want to climb Mount Aconcagua, which is the highest peak of South America, I would probably start my training and my preparation from September or October, because the season starts from November ending to February first week or the last week. So it depends upon every individual, and if someone is planning to create a record, or some kind of a record kind of thing, so you need to have a planning way beyond 6 months or 1 year. You have to have that proper planning of how much money it will be involved, and how much time you will take to climb that peak, because sometimes you need to have these buffer days in place, in when sometimes the weather goes bad. And yeah, Denali is a tough climb. And it was Denali, actually, for me, was a is a very different story, because in 2016 I went to climb Mount Everest. But then in the same year, the Nepal government has declared a new rule that below 16 they will not allow anybody to climb. So I was 15 back then in 2016 when I went to climb Everest. So that is when my father, immediately applied for the US climb, the Denali climb, and that is how it happened for me. So for me, it has always been the last moment decision, which I would not suggest anybody who wants to climb peaks. But I would rather suggest that you go well prepared, uh, plan for your finances, which is very important, because in the last moment you cannot take any chances. And then physical fitness is the most important thing. So you need to be fit all the time, no matter what you are doing, what is your profession, you need to be fit for your climb.
Thanks, Janvi. Let's take one more audience question. This is from Hanzala Rahman. A lot of travel management companies in India have started venturing into trekking. Has someone reached out to you to help them or advertise for them?
I haven't been to that stage of, reaching out for my help. But then I have my own company, which my father has actually began. He formed this company way back in 2000. But then, honestly, nobody has reached out to me to help them, nor I have advertised for any of them till now, because I am still in a process of uh, being a professional mountaineer, though I have enough of experience, but then, I need more of that experience to actually manage and advertise for somebody. But I do have my own company which I run. So that is what I think I will be doing in my life now, because my father has opened started the company for me, and I would love to make that as a platform and spread awareness about that in the world.
Great. Thanks, Janvi. Uh, we are getting very close to the end of this talk. Before we end, I'd like to invite you to share any message of hope or courage if you have for the audience. The world is going through a tough time right now. Uh, and
Yes.
at this young age, you have already been through situations that are tougher than what many of us are facing right now. So, if you could share some closing thoughts with the group, that would be great.
Yes, I would love to give a message. Though the pandemic has disturbed every one of our lives, I would like to say that don't give up in life, and whatever opportunities you get in life, don't miss that opportunity, because you never know where that opportunity door will lead you to. So you can, though you fail, though you don't reach your goal, just don't ever have that thought in your mind that, I have done enough and I want to leave that part of what I am doing. Because it wasn't anybody's decision why you've started something. It was your own decision what you've started. Though there is pandemic there, though there is lockdown, you are stuck at home, it doesn't matter. We have ample of resources and a lot of people, to support us in spite of our difficult times. I would only say that don't ever lose hope in whatever you're doing in life. It's okay to fail. It is okay to, fall down 100 of times and come back even more stronger after you fall, what in whatever you're doing. It is okay. Like people say that everything what you do in life should be that one shot success. But I would say that not everything is perfect. Not everybody is perfect in this world, and everybody make mistakes. My father always, says, what is that one identity that you are a human being? The one identity that you are a human being is that you make mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, then how are you going to learn from what you are doing? And I would also say that I would also like to relate um, one practical example that I, keep sharing to a lot of people. And I would like to take this example of an ECG monitor, where you must be knowing that it gives the reading if your heart is functioning go in a good condition or no. So to know how your heart is functioning, there is this readings which go up and down on the ECG monitor. And when your heart is not beating, it says that the reading says it's a straight line. So you can just relate that to your life. If you have ups and downs in your life, that means that you are really doing something in life. And if you're not facing anything, then, just ask yourself, what are you doing? You need to identify your why. Why are you here? Why are you sent here? Why are you even there? So you can, question yourself and see where you are. Where have you reached to your goal? Because everybody are sent here for a purpose. And I would like to conclude it by saying my mantra or my tagline that I have for my life, that is adventure without risk is Disneyland. So this adventure is not only the adventure that I have on the mountains, but then this adventure is my life, where without risk, I don't think that I can have fun.
Those are some really profound thoughts, Janvi. Your maturity belies your age. Thank you so much for joining us today. Also, thank you Suyash Gupta at Google who introduced us to Jaahnavi and to the amazing Talks team who has made this seamless presentation possible. With that, we come to the end of this talk. Have a good day.